15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to Talking, from the live podcast produced by Indy Radio, where we break down the mystery, the terror, and the twists of the hit TV series. Hosted by Jen and Kinte, this is the show where we review every shocking moment, every haunting question, and every chilling clue. And from strangers find themselves trapped in a mysterious town they cannot leave, forced to survive against deadly creatures that come out at night, while uncovering the dark secrets hidden all around them. You can watch from on MGM Plus. Get ready for live reactions, deep discussion, bold theories, and real talk about one of television's most unsettling shows. And now, here are your hosts, Jen and Kinte.
Hey everyone, welcome to Talking From. We are going to be breaking down and discussing season 4, episode 1, which was definitely a tell, don't necessarily show episode, except for the last couple of minutes. I am Jen. I am accompanied, as always, by my phenomenal co-host, Kinte. Kinte, how are you tonight?
I am doing excellent. I am so happy to be here and ready and excited to talk about a new episode of our great show From. Question, because I'm kind of ignorant to this. How many episodes are supposed to be in this season? Do you know?
Well, in seasons past, they have gone up to 10, so I'm hoping we have about 10.
Okay, because
There was a title guide that I saw someplace, because I saw a Doors reference. I saw a couple of songs.
the reason why I asked, because you know how sometimes in with other shows, when it's the last 2 seasons, they do that thing where it's really one season, but they break it in half, and it's not the normal number count. So if we're getting 2 full seasons, that's pretty good. So if we look at it as a countdown, I'm assuming we have 19 episodes left.
That's what I would think. Yeah, that's what I would think. And as far as I know, although I don't know if I have information on exactly how many. What I thought that I read was that there was going to be that same amount of episodes. So I'm hoping that it's pretty close, 10 episodes. In fact, I just actually confirmed that. Yes, there are 10 episodes. I counted them up. So there are 10 episodes per season. So yeah. So we got a bit to go, which is good. Which is really good, actually, because now I have more questions. And of course, I knew that was going to happen with the first episode. But before we get into everything, what was your general opinion of this episode? I mean, I think I stand on firm ground when I say that this was a tell episode, not a show episode, except for that last little part, right?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think it was as good as last year's season premiere, which I've told you that I think that's one of the best of the series. So that's a hard bar to climb. But
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good episode. It kept my attention. I thought, it definitely had a lot of intrigue, and made me, of course, we'll get to the last part, of course,
Right.
but it was very, very good. And there's a couple of things that we haven't yet seen that lingers from last season, a certain person's death. hasn't been revealed
Right.
yet, so, but yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good.
The title of this episode was The Arrival. And let me just run down, as just a kind of small bit of housekeeping, what we know the titles are so far. We've got episode 2 is titled Frey. Episode 3 is Merrily We Go. Episode 4 is Of Myths and Monsters. Episode 5 is What a Long, Strange Trip It's Been. Of course, Grateful Dead reference.
Mhm.
Episode 6, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Episode 7, Heavy is the Head. And episode 8, The Calm Before. Oh, I knew it. Okay. I'll get into that later, but okay. So we've got the first 8 episodes titled in the guide. I have a feeling they didn't title the last 2 because they might be spoilerish. So yeah. Okay. So,
well, like, it'll be a title like "Everyone Dies This Episode" is the title.
Yeah, or something. Remember what I was saying about our recap? I think something cataclysmic is going to happen, and maybe the title of the cataclysm is going to end up being in that episode. I don't know, but we'll see. Okay, well, I'll tell you how I felt about the episode. I thought it was solid. I thought there was a lot of recap, which I felt like we needed. I don't know if we needed to take a story pause, like, take a breath, because, I mean, the show has been, we haven't been watching for a while, so it's not like, we're all in need of a, it's been off the air for a while. But at the same time, I feel like they set up a lot of stuff to happen for this next season. The dynamics are definitely changing. And that kind of felt good. I liked that. I liked that a lot. So, of course, we have to talk about sort of what is happening with Fatima and what Boyd and Kenny see, and then what that actually means. I thought that was I thought that was really interesting, and also a little bit odd, just that Kenny goes down to find Boyd, but clearly Boyd doesn't need to be saved at this point. The monsters are not getting him. I mean, they don't want him for some reason. What did you think about that?
Well, I can see why they wouldn't want him, because what happened when he was bit,
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course they don't want him now, because he's infected. But
he doesn't think he's got worms anymore.
Well, maybe they don't know that. Do we know that they know or don't
no?
Know?
No, I don't think we do know that they don't know. That's weird. That's an odd double negative. I don't think the monsters necessarily know that Boyd is not going to kill them. But at the same time, I also think that maybe that's an oversimplification, because the monsters seem to know a heck of a lot that we don't know. In fact, if I could be so bold as to say this, by the end of this episode, I feel like this is one of the rare times when we know, because of what we have seen, more than what the people in the town know. And usually that's not the case. Usually we find things out as the reveal the moment that the people in the town find them out. And all of a sudden we are privy to a lot more information than anybody in the town knows. That feels kind of rare for this series. Right. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand. You know who I feel sorry for?
Who do you feel sorry for?
The actor who plays Smiley.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Because now for the rest of his life, if he's somewhere and he smiles, they're going to be like, stop, please stop. You're creeping me out, bro. Stop. He's like, I'm just happy.
All right. Let's set this up a little bit. So what we found out in more detail, and of course she can't put it together because Tabitha and Jade have one part of the story and Fatima has another part of the story, right? Basically what's going on that we know of right now is that these monsters made a deal with some kind of demon, some kind of entity. Well, I don't even know what it was, that offered them immortality. And that immortality, the price of the immortality that we understand from the Jade and the Tabitha story, is the children. And maybe it was like worded differently. Maybe it was, we're going to take away your hopes and dreams, or I don't know how they did, but they took the kids. The kids were the sacrifice. And that's what we saw with the kids on the slabs, in that weird sacrificial chamber. That was what that was. So now we understand that it's the creatures who've been granted immortality. And then the people that come into the town seem to have some kind of connection to it, or some of them do, but not all of them. So that definitely, in fact, I heard somebody rattle around a theory, which I thought was really good, which was along the lines of some of the people that come into the town are for their food for the creatures, and some of them that come into the town are mental food for the creatures, like the fear and because they live off of that sense of dread and horribleness. So that revelation in and of itself was kind of cool. But like I said, this is where I feel like we as the audience know more than the people of the town. But let me get your opinion. What do you think about that particular piece altogether as an explanation for who these creatures are and why they just keep roaming the forest?
I mean, I never heard that, by the way. So this is new to me. That, I mean, it makes sense, because they definitely don't treat everyone the same, and they're showing characteristics that they didn't initially, or maybe we just wasn't privy to it. I wonder. This is kind of a writing thing. Do you think it's a situation where, as they started writing this show, the way they see the creatures have evolved, or do you think they knew it all along?
No, I think they've known it all along. I think in fact, my son and I had this discussion the other day. It is really hard when you are telling this sort of puzzle box story to eke out a story that is just enough that it is believable and maintain that sense of continuity all the way through, despite the fact that the narrative is ever shifting. And because we have time travel, which we'll get to in a second, involved in this, we also have these like really odd sort of facets and features of this which aren't going to line up because they can't at this point. There isn't a way for it to happen. And this is what we talked yesterday a little bit when we did our recap and, predictions going forward, what we thought was going to happen. I think we are going to get an episode, or maybe even two, kind of some stuff that's split, where we see exactly what it was that transpired to create this. And it'll have a lot more detail about whatever that ritual was. But I feel like this. I feel like the creatures got kind of like a djinn, right? Where you make a wish and the genie says, be careful what you wish for. And everybody goes, no, we want to live forever. And the genie goes, ha ha ha, okay, you can live forever, but it's going to be terrible. You're going to have to be born in these weird ways. I don't know. Like, it just feels very like probably the creatures also got duped out of all of this. I highly doubt that the people that they started out to be knew that immortality was going to be this, but I think they're locked in, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. And what a sad, what a sad way to live, or that's not even really living, to be honest with
you. No, I mean, I think that this is the cautionary tale of immortality. I mean, we see this a lot with stories that deal with being immortal. It's the payoff is usually something pretty horrible. And for them, it's not that the people that they love die. It's that they can never truly, first of all, leave. But secondly, that existence is just an endless cycle. It can't possibly have, unless we're missing something that we haven't seen yet, it can't possibly have all kinds of like, you know, oh yeah, this is exactly how I thought I would spend all of my immortality, you know, hiding in the forest and underground subterranes and ugh, yuck.
Oh my god.
It does not. It feels like they got tricked. But okay, before I forget, let's talk quick because I for the life of me, for just a hot minute when I was watching, I was like, why is Julie in the town not screaming that Jim is dead?
Right.
And then I remembered, oh, of course, right. She's time traveling and she doesn't know it yet. She doesn't know.
That's what I said
her,
at first too. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't sort of been the experience yet. But my gut feeling is that slamming in the kitchen and the food getting thrown on the ground like a poltergeist is either Jim or Julie. I don't know who it is, but maybe it's Jim trying to call attention to the fact that something's happening and they can't see it.
Right.
Right. I mean, that seems like that.
Do you think Jim will be back on the show?
I mean, it's weird. There's like a weird meta game that I'm playing with myself saying, well, they credited him for this season, but also they did give him a very tiny role at the very beginning of this episode. So maybe that's why they credited him. I mean, I don't know. If the man in yellow says to Jim, which I love the fact that the man in yellow likes to monologue because it, first of all, it plays into every great supervillain trope, which I like. We learn more from supervillain monologues than anything else. And
I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was a little too much.
I just liked it because I got information. I mean, feed me, Seymour.
Yeah,
I'm hungry for something.
Come on now, that was a little. For this show, especially, it was. I mean, we love the information, but it was just like, all right, we're just gonna info dump, you know.
True. That is true. That is true. It did, and again, you know, there's got to be a way to get lore into stuff, and I don't know. Maybe that was just the only way.
You know what it reminded me of is like, I don't know if you ever watched the show 24.
Oh yeah.
And there's a certain point where the villain turns to the camera and is like, the reason why I did this is because, you know, and he basically explains, you know, what you've been watching for the last, you know, whatever time, you know. So it kind of felt like that, you know what I mean?
I think that part of the reason that the monologue happened is because I don't know if the man in yellow, who knows what he is. I mean, now he's Sophia, so good Lord. But I don't know if what's happening with him is like, clearly he is taking a perverse enjoyment in what's going on. And part of me felt like in Jim's dying breaths, he just wanted to turn the knife a little bit harder. And the only way to do it was by saying the stuff that he said. Like, you know, this is my favorite part and those kinds of things. Now, let's before we start talking about Sophia and the pastor that comes into the town, let's talk about something real quick because I feel like this
show really doesn't like pastors, by the way.
No, definitely does not treat them very well, which also would be sort of significant for you know, if you made a deal with the demon, they're not really going to like to have the religious guys hanging around. That's for sure.
That is true.
Let's talk about that for a second. Do you remember back when Father Cautry said that he thought it was odd that there is not one single Bible in the town?
Right.
And what do we get in that car as it's rolling into
the first Bible?
The first Bible, yes. You know, I don't know where that might go.
I noticed that too, by the way. Yeah.
It felt incredibly like we saw it. Like it wasn't just like, oh yeah, here's a little thing at the no, it felt very purposeful. Okay, so I got a couple of things to sort of think about with all of this. One, obviously, Jade and Tabitha haven't had any resolution at all. And I mean, honestly, Tabitha's state of mind to me is so interesting because she's like, okay, with everything that has happened, what makes more sense? That this town is just continually sticking it to me, or that we are reincarnations trying to protect a bunch of kids that we actually can never protect? What makes more sense to you, Jade? And Jade, I think, in that moment, it is sort of like they've switched roles. They've
Right.
gone from being, where he was always the one that was pushing everything off and saying, no, that this is stupid. And what are you thinking? And now Tabitha is like, the craziest things have happened to us. And now we're supposed to believe that we're just a part of this thing. Like, tell me where I'm supposed to pull some kind of reality from this. And she's got a really good point. I don't know what I would believe at that point. What did you think about all of that?
I'm sorry, for me, it was cutting in and out. It was on my end. I was having some technical issues. Can you please repeat?
I was just asking, what do you think about that switch off between Jade and Tabitha's affect, where Tabitha is now more of the doubting Thomas and Jade is more of the, oh my God, we have to talk about everything that just happened.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, like their whole dynamic and the way that they were, like the way that their whole thing was, it was pretty strange. And did you feel like she was, for what had just happened, she was acting weird? Like not the denial part, but her whole affect.
I don't think she was acting weird. I think she was acting like a person who has been through everything and then some. And she's in the presence of her children, and she's coming to the awareness that whether the resolution is with her and Jade or not, it doesn't feel like there is any hope to be had by hashing out what may or may not have happened. I felt like that was more the Tabitha point of view. Whereas Jade is like, he just finally went. Because remember, Tabitha's had these feelings for a long time. She's the one that went to the lighthouse and got there and then got pushed out the window by the boy in white, right? Like, right. She's been through it. Jade has been through it a little, but not as much. He hasn't had the strong conviction, and now the tables are turned. Right. All of a sudden, Jade's got the strong conviction. It feels like, I mean, who knows what we'll see next episode, but right now, that's what it feels like. I think one of the strongest aspects of this episode, and tell me what you think of this, or what you thought was the strongest part of the episode. But I think the strongest part of this episode was the idea that, one, they're beginning to understand some things, but with that understanding, it's a lot more hopeless than they thought.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's that, that's the thing though, like the hopelessness, the hopelessness is, we talked about that, I don't know, like, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a drag, man. Like, I don't know what to say. You know what I mean?
It's becoming, to me, it's becoming more existential dread than it is pure horror. Pure horror is like, in front of you, you're scared.
Right.
The existential part of this is, we're never leaving. Yeah. This is, there is no going home. This is our home. I think that's a heck of a revelation to have. Yeah, especially
and then Boyd has such a he has such a burden being, the person who's everyone looks to, and unfortunately for him, as well as everybody looked to him for guidance and whatnot, you know, he has to carry himself in a way that, I mean, it's just hard,
Yeah.
and one thing is kudos to Harold Perrineau, because his performance was fantastic.
It was.
Because that the part where he breaks down, and you know, and his him and his son have that moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it was great.
Well, one thing I think that we can think about, and this has nothing to do with theories about what's going forward, but just as the character drama, Boyd has not taken, we'll just like call it a story beat. Boyd has not taken a story beat since he tortured Elgin.
Right.
And that has got, whether Fatima is safe now or whether, she gave birth to Smiley, which obviously is like, crazy. The idea that he experienced that and was able to do that to another human being is enormous, especially for a person who has, all the way up until this point, always been concerned with the protection of everyone. It feels very like he's got to be going through some serious upside down moments. And I think Acosta calls him out on it, when he's on the steps and she's like, you might think that you're the savior, but you're the monster. And right. I can understand why she thinks that, What do you think about that?
Yeah, no. Yeah. And I don't, he had to be called out, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that what he did was horrific. But I mean, I don't know, maybe we should have a deeper conversation on how we feel about it. I mean, do you feel like, look at the ends. Does the ends justify the means? Like, do you feel like because they were able to get the information they needed, do we give him a pass?
This to me feels like very, it feels to me like very both morally gray and also not morally gray based on everything that they have been through already. They know that the creatures lie to them. They know through Sarah that the creatures promise other, definitely they promised Sarah that everybody could go home if just this one thing gets done. They know that. Boyd knows it more than anybody because he's had more talks with Sarah than anyone at this point. And so while I understand that it could be morally gray, for Boyd, no, I don't think it is. He knows the truth. He acted, of course, for Elgin and for Fatima. I mean, I think he actually loves her like he loves Ellis, right? Oh, he cares about them. But he also knows, and now he knows exactly how many, 47 people there are in the town. And he has said on numerous occasions, these things lie and trick us, and they really want us to be the worst of the worst. They want us to be scared. They want us to be hopeless, all of that stuff. And so for him to take on the mantle of being the thing that he keeps counseling people not to be is more than just disingenuous. It feels like a betrayal of sort of everything that he's done up to this point. I'm not saying I don't understand why he did it. I'm saying this is exactly why I think the town is about to turn on him.
Right.
I don't think there's any way for him to keep it quiet. No, what are they going to do? Put Elgin in a jail cell? Well, it's not going to be in the police station because police station is ruined.
Right.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about our newcomers to fromville. So we have the classic setup with a car against a tree. And we know exactly what's going to happen. And then we see the car coming through town. It's speeding and it crashes into the police station. The interesting thing to me about that, obviously, is seeing it through the perspective of the man in yellow. And then we see exactly what really happened. So, because at first I was thinking, oh, well, maybe the town doesn't want an extra person because remember Kenny said there's 47 and maybe there's something to that number or whatever. But wait a minute. No, that I don't think that that's true. I think he needed that cover to be one of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And he can't have any witnesses. Because I don't know about you, but at first I thought, oh my God, Sophia is like some kind of angel or, some kind of like prophet or something. She's able to will people out of a freaking coma or something. No, that wasn't what that was all about at all. It was absolutely deceptive. What I found interesting, and again, this goes back to the whole monologue thing. Tell me what you think. But why did he? I mean, I know why, but the fact that Sophia had to wake him up to tell him why he was going to die was so cruel and so horribly mean. So, like, rotten underneath that it was just, ugh, God, that's so bad. What did you think of that?
Oh my God, that's some real hardcore stuff. But I believe that was put in to get the audience to realize like what we're actually dealing with. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, so it's like, oh, this guy is not playing around. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I thought that was definitely real cruel, and I thought that and then also, we talked about it, the info dump, as well, of telling the audience all the different things that, to basically give us the background information.
Do you remember when I said yesterday, because all of a sudden this makes more sense now too. Do you remember yesterday when I said that the boy in white had told Victor, listen, if you can't bury everybody, at least bury stuff that belongs to them. That all of a sudden comes pretty clear into the picture when you've got the man in yellow out there in the woods digging up suitcases with things in them.
Yeah, what did you think when you saw him digging up the suitcase?
Honestly, at first I thought he was I thought that he was digging up something like, oh, here's the agent of, Armageddon. Like, here's what we're going to do. I did not think that he was digging up a personal effect to become that person, which makes me think that the character of Sophia, if not Sophia, was actually in the town at one point too. Somebody like Sophia, clearly a person similar, was in the town at one point because the effects were so that he could transform. That was the whole thing.
And the transformation scene was awesome.
That was good. That was really good.
And it looked really good. It didn't look cheap or anything like that. And then, how old is she supposed to be?
I think they said she's supposed to be. He said somebody mentions that she's got to be about 15, maybe 16. Okay.
Yeah, but the actress is an adult for sure.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Hollywood. That's what.
Right. Yeah, but I was like, for a minute, I was like, oh, is this possibly someone for what's the Asian guy's name?
Kenny
to hook up with. But then I was like, she's pretty young though. That's why I was kind of like, But then
No,
when I
but
saw what she is, I was like, oh God, no.
no, but I do think that okay, but I do think that it's going to hit Kenny the hardest because Kenny is definitely, you saw on his
Uh-huh.
face that reaction that he had to her, right? When she was praying, and she was praying for everybody in the town, and like, seemingly putting the needs of the town even before her own. You could tell that Kenny was very taken by that. That act of kindness was huge. And we know that that was not an act of kindness. What I find interesting, to be blunt, is that the writers are allowing us to know that that's the man in yellow.
Right.
And so far in this series, we have never had, and that's why I said, like, we know more now as the audience than the people in the town do, and that's real different. It hasn't been this way almost all the way up to this point. It's always been, we know just as much as the people in the town, so we're all scratching our head going, I don't know what's going on. And now all of a sudden it's starting to feel like, oh, here you go, guys, we're gonna let
Do
you
you
see
like that?
behind the scenes. I kind of do, and I'll tell you why. I kind of do, because I think that audience, that participating in this story, first of all, it requires a giant leap of faith that they're going to be able to do it, and then it's not going to be, everybody was dreaming and so then they all wake up. And also, I think it requires a level of, come with us while we tell this story, and then we'll reward you with stuff that you might, I think it's going to make it more interesting knowing that Sophia is what Sophia is, simply because we can't in any way, shape, or form sort of participate in any of the foreshadowing. Now we're sort of like in it. Now this is we are actual participants at this point. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's more of we're taking a more active role rather than just trying to armchair sleuth what's going on.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
love it. Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, do you like it or do you not like it?
No,
you
I
think it was
do
good
like it. I
choice?
like it because it's a departure, Like me, things don't need to have to stay the same,
Mhm.
But you don't want it to drift so much where it doesn't feel right, But yeah, no. Oh my God, yeah.
Although the fact that this is cyclical, and the man in yellow keeps telling us, this has all been done before. And oh wait, I have to circle back to Julie in a second, but before I get there, the fact that this is cyclical really creates, in my mind, this is like a well-rehearsed play, and whatever act we're in, it's sort of like, we get a little bit more dialogue from the narrator now at this point to kind of set the scene for what's going to happen in our final act. And to me, that kind of feels good, because I mean, it means that despite the fact that this is a story loop, that there is kind of a design here, instead of this just being haphazardly, whatever it is. I have to go back to Julie for a second.
Okay.
So, all right. So I kept trying to understand. Julie time travels, right? So at the moment that Julie is time traveling, it's clearly not at the time that she's standing with Ethan while Sophia comes in, right?
Right.
So
you're asking me, or
yeah, I mean, I'm processing it myself. If that's the case, then Julie saw the man in yellow kill Jim, but she didn't see it at the time that actually was happening. She saw it the same way that she saw the well house with everybody being tied up and stuff, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
What do you think the purpose was to that?
The real purpose or the purpose for the show? Like, because
well, either. Tell me
well, I think the purpose is to throw us off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, but that's interesting, because I think that what I really think it is that she, like, these things, we've agreed that this has happened before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of this stuff is what do you call cyclical? I can't even say that.
Yes.
So I just feel like it's all of this has happened before. It's happening again, and everything that's being done just creates the inevitable, right?
Right.
So I just feel like that's what's going on.
So at this point, the key to me is, or not the key, but the key takeaway is that in almost sort of like, it's hard to grasp, but in basically Julie saw him die in a time that hasn't existed yet.
Right.
That's hard to reconcile, because we saw Julie, we know Jim is missing, but I'm wondering if maybe he's not missing for the reason that he's dead yet.
Oh wow.
That's I'm trying to sort of process that out in my brain, because I love the fact that the man in yellow actually addresses her and says, "What time did you get here from?"
Right. Yeah.
That was great.
I was trying to have some clips, but I don't know, for some reason it wasn't allowing me to get it, because I was gonna try to have clips to to illustrate some of these points. But I guess we got to do it the old-fashioned way. But yeah.
The one thing that he tells her, which I thought was just super fascinating, was basically, you can't change the story. You're only observing it. You can't change the story. You can't change what's going to happen. But that leads me back to Tabitha and Jade, who do seem to have some control over what is happening. I don't know if they can change the story, but yeah, that's sort of where things kind of veer off the rails. And also, let's just talk for a quick second. What did you think about Boyd counting the bullets?
I mean, I think he said, I just feel like he saw something that rocked his world, and he's sitting there like, oh man, I gotta, this is what he's doing to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? I just think that he was losing it.
I think he is now, for lack of a better word, abifying the situation.
Really? What?
He's creating Abby's vision of what needs to happen in the town, because there's no way out. So everybody has to die.
Right.
And that's exactly what Abby said before she started opening fire on everybody. Everybody has to die. If we all wake up, there's nobody left. The cycle can't continue if we're all dead. And I think Boyd is coming to that. I don't know if he recognizes that was... I don't know if he recognizes in sort of like a meta-contextual way that that's what Abby was saying, but that is what Abby was saying. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
So maybe there's something to that. I mean, it's hard to tell, because sometimes I think that Boyd acts with this sort of like, I'm Superman and I can do everything, and then sometimes the pits of despair that he sinks into sort of make that hopelessness that much more dark, because he was on top of everything, just an episode or so before. Do you know what I mean?
What would the Joseph Campbell say about his character?
Oh my God. If Joseph Campbell could see this story, I wonder what he would say. I mean, like, that's actually a whole damn episode. Because, first of all, this is not a conventional hero's journey, that's for sure. But from a character development standpoint, I think that Boyd behaves in a way like I won't call him an anti-hero, but he has those anti-hero qualities about him, where he's like, he is the hero of his own story. He's also the hero of other people's story. But this last thing that he did, and the thing that he did with Sarah, and the few other things that he has done, have all conspired against him to dethrone him from the hero status.
You know what I'm afraid of is that when this show's all over, that people are gonna hate him based on his actions. I'm talking about the fan base.
Oh,
that would suck if in the end we're all like, F that guy,
Yeah.
I hope that's not what happens.
I mean, again, we speculated this yesterday, and we don't know how this is all going to end. But if it doesn't end in a cycle, in a new cycle, then I kind of wonder if it will end in a sort of redemption where everybody does die, but everybody gets a small measure of redemption out of it. I mean, I wish that there was a way for me to crystal ball this and try to figure it out, but they've done such a good job. I was just telling somebody, I don't know if I said this yesterday, but I was just telling somebody recently that part of the reason I love this show so much is that I can't figure it out. I mean, I have wild theories and crazy ideas, and many of them don't pan out. And because of that, it just keeps me constantly questioning the reality inside the story matrix, the reality outside the story matrix. Like, this is one show that I do not, other than maybe Twin Peaks, where I just don't, I can't figure out what's going to happen next. And for somebody like me who sees the patterns, who, can kind of guess the ending of a movie before it's even 15 minutes in, it's so refreshing. It's so, I don't know what the word is, but it feels really good because I have to keep thinking about it, and it becomes almost an obsession. So yeah, I mean, good job, everybody. Very good job.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, in this episode, who do you think had the most interesting plot point? I have an idea, but tell me what you think.
Well, I mean, it'd be easy to say Boyd, but not, with him, we're gonna not use him. I really like Kenny.
Yeah.
Kenny, first of all, I like his character a lot. Look what he's lost, his mother, his father, in most horrific ways. Shoot, he lost his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Poor guy, right? And he's, his arc is, he has a really good arc, because I remember you asked yesterday about arcs, and I don't know if I had said Kenny, but Kenny's arc is pretty interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where it all ultimately ends. But yeah, he was the character I found more than even Jade, that I gravitated towards the most was him. And then, of course, our new character and the man in yellow, But I mean, that's kind of obvious.
It's funny that now, and I mean, like, I think he's actually been a part of the town since forever. I think we just haven't noticed him because, like I said, when I went back and rewatched every single episode, there's so many times when I am absolutely sure that the man in yellow was right there. I mean, I'm just 100%.
I think that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
That
He was like
because I've always
moving them a
felt like
little bit.
I've always felt like certain people in the town are like plants.
Yeah, yeah. And who says that? Wait, somebody says that.
I think
maybe
it was
it's
Jim.
Maybe it was the night in the diner. When they were in the diner.
Jim or Jade, I think, suggested that. It might have been Jim.
Yeah,
It
maybe.
felt like some of the people, there were some of them, you know, maybe even those who.
I think he was suspecting Donna of being a plant, but just because he suspected Donna, and I don't think that Donna is necessarily a plant. Although before we have to wrap up, I have to ask this because I realized this tonight more than any other night. Why hasn't Donna had any creature moment at all? Like,
he sure hasn't.
No, in a town where everybody's had a creature moment, I'm starting to wonder why Donna hasn't had one. I don't know. I mean, that could be nothing.
But then you got to look at. You also have to go back, and if she's a plant, are there situations that the group would have not survived if it weren't for her help?
Yes.
So
yes, remember,
is that part of her being a plant?
I mean, it could be if we're gonna, that part of the reason that I love From is because in real life, I don't really participate in conspiracy theories. Okay. Mm-hmm. But in From, I get to wildly entertain every conspiracy theory that there is. And let me tell you, it's fun. It could very well be because Donna, remember, she's the one that saved half the people out of Colony House, thereby basically rationing the numbers in Colony House down to a manageable amount so that the bus could come in and basically replace just the people that had been killed by the creatures. She also seems to be some kind of shepherd. Like, she is herding people. Also, I don't know. I mean, sometimes her reactions feel like, yes, this is genuinely what a human would, when she was reacting to Fatima's pregnancy and all of that stuff. But also, why wasn't she like super concerned that this is weird? What's going on here? Especially for a person who works so closely with Boyd. And I don't know.
But you got to think about it at this point. What is weird to them at this point? They've seen so much stuff. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, if Godzilla showed up in the town, I mean, they would just go, makes sense,
Well, that's what I was saying about Tabitha when I was saying, Tabitha's like, hey, what makes more sense, that these creatures are like messing with us royally, or that we're actual reincarnations and there's a bunch of kids that are looking for our help? Like, what makes more sense, Jade? Maybe this is just them screwing with us again. I mean, if I was her, I don't know what I would believe.
Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing. One of the things that also is really impressing me so far, I mean, we'll see where the season goes, but one thing that's really impressing me so far is that this show does not seem to be suffering from what a lot of shows that do the whole puzzle box idea of storytelling does, which is the concentric rings of story feel like they get wider and wider as the writers kind of paint themselves into weird corners and then have to go off in big different directions. This feels to me like the actual concentric rings of storytelling are getting tighter and tighter. And that bodes really well for them to do maybe not the satisfying conclusion that everybody wants at the end of season 5, but it feels like we're going to get some resolution. And that does feel good. As somebody who is also a writer, it gives me a lot of hope that we will get a complete epic story instead of wild, buckshot everywhere. And maybe it was this and maybe it was that. No, I think there's an actual destination that we are hurtling ourselves forward in the story.
Can I let me ask this a question that you might roll your eyes at?
With you, never.
Um.
And we're not on camera, so don't worry. Even if I do, I promise I.
Okay, so the show, the show. Let's fast forward to the series finale. Is there any more like a spinoff or a prequel or something, or do you think that? Okay, let's say it like this: do you think it could happen, and do you think there is more to mine when this is over? I know we can't know because we don't know, what the end is. But just put out your crystal ball. Do you think that there'll be more of this, or do you think this is it? They said everything they needed to say, or would you even want to see a prequel or a spinoff somehow, or maybe there's a similar place on another side of the globe or whatever, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm just throwing out stuff.
I mean, it's if the show ended and this was truly cyclical, meaning like they start a new cycle at the end of the show, then I could see that would be a viable option. But would I want it? No, because the genie is sort of out of the bottle at this point. And like you can't go back and get that awe and wonder back about the storytelling if you already know it. I mean, I can see that we could get like, some kind of, well, here's how it all happened. But even if you knew how it all happened, you already know what the resolution is. And so it paints a very different kind of backdrop for the story, which I don't think people would be super into. This is so unique that I don't know if you could retell it, in that way. What I will say is I think because this works so well and because the fan base has just exponentially exploded, including people making video memes of things like, oh my God, I just saw one yesterday with a lady who was playing the intro to From, and outside of her window, she was behaving like one of the creatures, but to tempt people out, she had Legos and puzzles, and like it was so funny because so in that sense this show has been a massive success. And if a brilliant writer can mirror the success of From by telling a different kind of puzzle box story, this bodes really well for them because it's so well received. But I don't think we would want a different version of From to be told. Like I said, I don't think you can put that genie back in the bottle. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't. I think this should be it. The only way I could see possibly doing something is to do like maybe a prequel movie, like a 2-hour prequel movie, like how remember Twin Peaks had The Fire Walk with Me?
Yes.
Which I have to admit, when I initially saw Fire Walk with Me, I hated it. And then but like I love that movie now. I think the movie was so underrated. And I mean, I'm going on a Twin Peaks tangent, but
it's similar storytelling.
Yeah, it took me, because we already know what was gonna happen, but it's like when you see that movie, it's so tragic and sad, and it's so brilliant. So, I mean, that would be the only way, me personally, where I could see if they did like a From prequel movie or something, maybe that might work. Or what they could have done, probably would have been better, is I can't remember. There was a show that did something like this, where in between a season, I think there was like a break. No, it was 24, I think, where they did like a movie because it was such a long break in between, and they wanted something, so they did like a movie. So maybe that would be better in between this, like 4 and 5 is they do a 2-hour movie to handle all that, possibly. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. Maybe that would be better because it's still in between, getting the final whatever. But I'm just throwing that out there. I'm giving them more work than they probably want to do, or whatnot.
The thing that makes From so unique, if I could be so bold, is one, of course, mystery box is mystery box, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. More times than often, it doesn't work, but in this case, it really does work, which is absolutely credit to the writers. 100%. Like, this could not exist if the writers were not absolutely sharp as tacks, and also the directors. But the other reason that this works is because the character drama is so well done that despite the fact that we have an ensemble cast who we have to keep track of, I mean, you have to have actual like story webs to figure out what's going on with each character and who's doing what and where are they in time and what has happened to them before. And like, I mean, it's an investment in your mental capacity. And because of that, I don't know if you could recreate it with a new set of characters, like investing this heavily in who those characters are. It would be
unless one of them is Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe that's possible, but getting that deep level of detail into who the characters are, to me, I don't even know if that would be possible at this point. Again, because the genie's out of the bottle, we would not feel that same sense of investment in who the characters are and what was going to happen to them because we already know. And so whether you tell prequel or whether you tell a sequel, yeah, I don't know if it actually works. I mean, I think it's
I don't think it does, me personally, but unless, like I said, maybe that in between season thing might be cool, like, but
also where once I saw the man in yellow as kind of like, oh my God, maybe he's the one that's like actually controlling everything. I don't think that anymore. I don't think the man in yellow is controlling things. I think he's the stage manager. If we're going to like put this in the metaphor of a play, he's the stage manager. He is inserting himself into a character, but he is absolutely pushing the story where it needs to go because he's managing the whole stage. But he's not managing the whole stage because this is his story to tell. He's just managing the story that has been given to him.
Yeah.
Well, I had a great time with this episode. I'm sure there's a million things that I missed, and please feel free to tell Kinte, what things did we miss? What did you notice? How did you respond to all of the revelations that went on with episode 1, season 4? And let us both know if you liked it, because I feel like definitely this fan base is so diverse and so huge, and man, I love all the theories. They are just absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
So with that said, next week we have, I think it's the Fray. Was that what I just said? Did I say it was the Fray?
Is that the third one, maybe?
Yeah. Fray is the second one.
Oh, it is the second. Okay.
Yep. So next week we have Fray, and that is going to air on April 26th. So we got a little while to digest what just happened before we are back at it again.
That one we might have to do on a Monday because there's a lot going on.
Okay.
Actually, the next two, because I think isn't the following week Mother's Day?
Yeah, probably. I think it's May 3rd. No, wait, that wouldn't be May 3rd. May 3rd, that would be the first Sunday of May. So the second Sunday of May.
Oh, okay. All right. So then just the Mother's Day weekend and next weekend will probably be it may be like a Monday when we do it, but yeah, we're gonna try to stick on the Sunday. Unless you see it early, and then we could,
Unfortunately, the whole thing is I'm in Hawaii. I get my time zone doesn't let the episodes drop the way that they do on the West Coast. So I'm kind of.
It wasn't even midnight yet. We were like, and I saw it. I was like, oh wow, it's outright. Remember, I said it during the show. And as soon as we finished recording, I watched it. So
I'm sad, but no, that doesn't work for me. So I have to wait like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry. Sorry. Well, like I said, I'm really excited. I really want to know what is going to happen next. And thank you so much, Kinte, for participating in this. I really enjoy your theories as well. I feel like between the two of us, we've got a lot of ground that we just covered. How can we find you on social media?
All right. You can get me at Kinte Ferguson. That's KinteFergerson on Instagram. And you can get our show is been republished on iTunes. So our past episodes and our new episodes, you can just go in, look and talking from, and it'll pop up. The one from yesterday, it should be a little bit later tonight. It'll be available as well as this one. But yeah, so we're also on the platform Spreaker, which I needed a new catcher that allows us to put our shows individually instead of like one big indie radio group. So which is so cool. So now our shows you'll be able to get them individually now instead of just all the shows in a big batch.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so and I'm gonna work on some of our other ones, getting those on. It's like a kind of a process to get them uploaded onto there, but I will get them on there, and so you'll be able to check out all of our programs individually. So, but yeah, how can we get you?
As I keep stating, I'm a little bit hard to track down on social media, but you can always find me at any one of the either indie radios that I participate in, or, you can always check out some of my other that. Don't look for me on social media. I hate social media. I know I'm probably the last person on the planet now. One last thing before we go, just before I kind of forget. In case you didn't get to the recap episode yesterday, season 5 of From has been greenlit. We know that John Griffin is absolutely already involved in writing or getting ready to write season 5. I assume, and they have said that they think it's going to drop around the same time next year. So we hopefully won't have a 2-year wait in between our seasons. It's only going to be a year. So that's something that I thought was really exciting and good to kind of keep an eye out for, because 2 years in between seasons is really long. It's just super long. So
right.
I was excited about that.
But the one thing about having such a long is the show's still technically on. So yeah.
Yes, and it definitely, I think that hiatus gave Amazon a chance to really push the show to a lot of people. And as a result, it worked, because the fan base is, I'm not kidding, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. TikTok is full of fan theories and, like I said, awesome memes and sort of everybody's feelings about the show, and they're amazing. I mean, shout out to everybody who has come forward with some kind of theory. Some of them are crazy, some of them are academic. I mean, like, I'm in awe. I am absolutely in awe.
It's going to end up being like The Wire. I don't know if you probably never watched The Wire.
I did actually watch The Wire.
The Wire, when it finally went off the air, it became the biggest it ever was. like it really, it was huge when it went off the air. It didn't really get ratings until like the last season, which is funny how that happened. But and then part of it was there was such a big, there was a big gap in between seasons, so that allowed people to catch up and become fans. And then it's even bigger post the show. So I wonder if From might have that similar, where it will be at its apex when at the very end of the show. I feel like the show Black Sails, is similar. Like I feel like it might be even bigger post it's airing. Like, people will be like, "Have you heard of this show called Black Sails?" I'm like,
yeah. And
same thing with Hell on Wheels as well.
Honestly, Hell on Wheels, Black Sails, and From have a very they all have something in common, and that is they have a very pronounced beginning, middle, and now we know end. And that is satisfying. People really like that. The aimless meandering of storytelling doesn't always work. And in this case, they set out to tell a story and they finished it. Like it absolutely, it's very clear to me that this is going in a direction. It's not just random. It feels very purposeful. So, I mean,
when I knew this show was going to be good? When the theme song was by the Pixies. I was like, oh, well, like, it has to be good. It's Pixies, which is, it's funny that we never talked about that. I mean, I love the Pixies. It's really called Pixies, but the Pixies, that group is fantastic. So
next week, we will definitely, let's start next week by talking about the intro and where the pictures, the child drawings and the symbolism, where we
could do a whole show on how it's evolved in each season.
Yes, and what the reveal now that we know about all of these different drawings and all these different small snippets of stuff that has happened. And also I am hoping that we have a little bit more of the boy in white coming toward us here, because
is the boy in white the man in yellow?
See, I have a theory about this, and I don't know if it's right or if it's wrong, but I don't think the boy in white is our white later. I don't know. I don't
Maybe
think that's what's going on.
He's had that outfit so long it became yellow.
Yeah. That's actually pretty funny. All right. Thank you all for joining us. It has been a pleasure, and we will see you all next week for episode 2, season 4 of From.